host, Heather Ashley, and welcome to another episode of Women of Her Story, a podcast dedicated to celebrating women who have made or are making their mark on our society. I have with me today captain of the jump rope team, Michael Hops.
How's it going, everyone? Hoppity hop hop.
Are you ready for a dive into the world of Nigerian trade?
I've never been more ready for that.
Once again, you guys, I have chosen a story where pronunciations are most difficult. Michael Hops over here can't help me with these because we're in Africa today. So I'm doing my best.
I don't know why you do it to yourself, but I also like being informed. So
See? Maybe next week I'll have a story that's state bound and we'll not have to worry about pronunciations.
It's a learning process for us. That's fine. we learn as we go along. Anyway.
Today's Her Story starts in 1872. Omu Okwei was born Felicia Ifoma Ekajuba. She was the daughter of Prince Osuna Afubeho of the Igbo tribe. He was a celebrated warrior and a wealthy man. He owned many trading and war canoes, as well as several hundred slaves who fought and traded on his behalf throughout Nigeria. Her grandfather was King Nzedguwa of Osomari. He reigned in the mid-19th century. He established trading relations with the British and even invited the Roman Catholic missionaries into his kingdom.
Influential family.
Yeah. Very, very...
A lot of power.
Mm-hmm. Her mother, one of his several wives, had no male children who survived adulthood. So this limited her claims to her husband's property. It was tradition for Nigerian women to support themselves, usually through farming and trading. Basically, because she couldn't provide a male heir, she had no claims to anything.
No,
her,
anything.
Right. So this is her mother that we're talking about right now. Yeah. Okwei's mother was a successful trader, trading vegetables, palm oil, cloth, and a wide variety of goods. Okwei was never formally educated. When she was 9 years old, her mother sent her to live with one of her aunts among the Igala to learn about trade.
At 9?
At 9. Mm-hmm. I think that shows a lot of foresight from her mother because she knows, like, her daughter has no right to anything coming from her father. Neither does her mother. So she's gotta learn now about something if they're not gonna let her be actually formally educated.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned, daughters were unable to inherit the property of their fathers. Nigeria was and still is filled with many different tribes and languages. Success in trade depended heavily on understanding the system of extensive trade networks and languages spoken in trade, one being the Igala. So while living with her aunt, she learned Igala and basic business practices. She began successfully trading fruits and vegetables and was able to eventually move on to yams and poultry. And keep in mind, she's 9, 10 years old, and she's
moving up in the ranks of trade and bartering. She's like, listen.
She's already figured this system out. She's got a mind for business.
Yeah.
Okwei's father died when she was 15. And when this happened, she returned to live with her mother. Man, so this whole time, she's living with her aunt.
And this is 15.
She's young. She's still young. Yeah. Together, they lived at Atani, a port on the river Niger. In 1889, at age 17, she married Joseph Alagoa. So she's 17. That's so young. He was a respected tradesman, but was not of the same stature as she and her family. They didn't support the union, and they did not provide the traditional dowry expected to be gifted to new brides. So,
really?
Yeah, they didn't approve of it. So they just didn't have to give the dowry because she was of a higher social stature than this man. But she got married anyway because she was like, that's fine. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Wow.
So through this marriage, she was able to cultivate relationships with traders and agents. They had one child, Joseph, less than a year into their relationship. Now, shortly after he was born, they divorced.
Well, that's sad.
You know,
that's short-lived.
that is very short-lived.
Well, you know what? But if they got divorced, then it wasn't meant to be.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not that sad then.
Yeah.
I guess the idea is unfortunate, but then they're better off, hopefully.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah. At this time, her merchandise had expanded to include pots, pans, lamps, and clothes. She traveled along the River Niger exchanging manufactured goods for like food products from the Nigerians, of which she then sold to the Europeans at a huge profit.
Hey.
Yeah.
There you go.
She knew what she was doing. She was known to be friendly, hardworking, and honest, making her liked by the Africans as well as the Europeans that were residing there at the time. In 1895, she found love again in Opena of Abo. He was the son of a wealthy woman trader. Once again, though, her family didn't approve. But being strong-minded, she went forward with the marriage anyway. And as they again didn't approve, she was once again denied a dowry from her family. They had a child, Peter. Okwei partnered with her mother-in-law, and she was able to expand her products to include tobacco and cotton goods. Yeah, she's just growing at a pretty rapid rate, to be honest.
Yeah, she's expanding. Yeah, she's expanding her merchandise for sure.
Mm-hmm. One of the major obstacles in trade was the lack of universal Nigerian currency. Nigerians in Onitsha used cowrie shells as money, and they refused to trade in the British currency used by the Europeans as they didn't trust it. Understandably, if you're not fully fluently speaking the language that you're being traded, you could, come to the conclusion that you're being taken advantage
Swindled,
of. Yeah, especially if they've experienced, which they obviously have, being swindled in the first place.
Yeah.
Trade was frequently conducted through the use of tickets that could be converted into either British currency or Nigerian cowrie shells. That way, everyone knew that everything was on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
After a few years, Okwei dissolved her partnership with her mother-in-law and set up an independent trading unit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She expanded. She's expanding even more.
Mm-hmm.
She cut off ties and said, I'm going to be my own brand.
She became an agent of the Royal Niger Company in 1904. She exchanged liquor, tobacco, pots, plates, lamps, and matches, which were in high demand for the Nigerians, and palm oil, which was in high demand among the Europeans. She was able to accumulate an unheard of 400 tickets. She used those to acquire more palm oil and sold it to the Europeans at an enormous profit. So what a mind for business.
Yeah.
By 1915, Okwei had built a financial empire, and the backbone of her enterprise shifted. She began to build up trade links with powerful men. Chief Quaker Bob Manuel, we're going to say Manuel. His name is Bob, though, so I don't know.
Bob.
Yeah. He was an import trader. Jack Cooper, the Niger Company manager, and John Winfall, the bank manager at Onitsha. They would reserve goods for her as well as extend her credit. So they knew that so the relationship they had is when they got in new shipments of goods and stuff, they would set a certain amount aside just for her.
Oh, she would get the pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
She'd get everything.
She got to pre-order.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. As her profits grew, she began lending money to smaller traders in exchange for a commission on their sales. She made good use of her relationships with business associates and employees when she arranged for some of her better-looking maids to become wives or mistresses of bank managers, interpreters, shopkeepers, clerks, and influential businessmen that she knew well.
She's just doing business.
So the
That's just good business.
The business associates were grateful for the introduction,
Sure.
and based on most accounts, the maids were pleased with the opportunity to enhance their status.
I like that not only was she good with business, but in terms of like merchandise and being able to sell, distribute, but she also built relationships with other people You know, that means that her word and like
She was
her
trusted.
yeah,
Yeah, they knew, you know, it sounds like the maids knew that she wasn't going to set them up to be in a bad position.
Yeah, right.
You know,
She was building a good foundation, and she was allowed to, you know, eat off of other people's plates as a result. That's good work.
during World War I, the demand for palm oil in Europe was essentially non-existent. So she shifted her focus to ivory and coral beads, which were in much higher demand. She began to import goods directly from England, which is extremely costly and requires a high level of organization. It paid off handsomely as she reaped, once again, enormous profits. After 1918, the British decided to do away with the ticket system and introduce a new standard currency. The Nigerians had just gotten used to the old currency and wanted nothing to do with the new money. Okwei, being a savvy businesswoman, saw another opportunity to cash in. She made the old currency available at an exchange rate of 2 old shillings to 5 new shillings. So they bring in 5 new shillings, they'd get 2 old ones. Or, you know, basically she's just like making money everywhere.
Yeah, she's making money off money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Crazy.
Naturally.
Crazy.
As one does.
Over the years, she had invested in ivory, gold, and silver and began to rent pieces of it out for ceremonial occasions. She had so much of this like beautiful jewelry that she couldn't wear it all the time. So
how can
and
you?
it was of such high worth and sought after like materials that people would rent them from her.
I like that she had enough where she couldn't wear it.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know. That seems
the
excessive.
dream.
Not right now. Not right now. The dream is to just
live,
It's
is
to get
to
by.
survive.
It's just surviving. That's my dream right now. My dream used to be other things. Now I just need to.
Now you just need to
Now I
live.
just need to get by.
By the 1920s, she was one of Nigeria's wealthiest women. She had many servants working in her business and in her many homes. She was influential in many social clubs. She became one of the first people in Onitsha to own a car, and she bought a fleet of trucks to supplement the canoes. A fleet. I would like to buy a fleet of trucks. Maybe a fleet of scooters is more what I can afford right now.
See, but the thing is, I wouldn't want to do any of the driving. I would want to have, like, you know, like, if she owned a car, I would pay someone to drive that car.
Oh,
But
I'm sure she
I'm
had a
not
driver.
doing that.
There's no way she drove
I'm
that
not
herself.
doing that. I have a fleet. Do you own a fleet of things? You drive.
So here's something really cool. Okwei owned more than 1/3 of the land along the banks of the river Niger at Onitsha. What do you think she did with that land?
Gave it back to the people.
No, sort of. She rented it.
Yeah, okay.
Or leased
For
even more
she
income.
entrepreneurial,
Landlord now.
ventures. Yeah, that's fine. She gave people an opportunity. That's good.
She was a believer in the traditional Nigerian way of life, putting her family first. They were actually quite happy. The reason her family didn't approve of her husband, Opene, that her one she's currently with, I'm changing my pronunciation, it's fine.
She's changing the story as it goes.
Was because, I'm not changing any stories, they didn't approve of her current husband because they believed he wasn't particularly hardworking, which didn't prove to be false. But it worked for them because Okwei liked to bring home the bacon, make the decisions, and he was there to support her efforts. She made sure
That's
that,
nice.
yeah, right? It worked. It worked for them.
That's nice. Yeah,
It worked for them.
Yeah.
It was good.
if it works for them.
She made sure that both of her sons were well educated and held high-ranking positions in society. Joseph, her first son, became a district interpreter and court registrar in the British Civil Service. Her second-born, Peter, was employed by the Royal Niger Company, and both of her sons' careers furthered her ties within the business and government circles. So she's always thinking about it.
She raised some good boys.
She
then.
knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she took care. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. In August of 1935, she was crowned Omu, which means queen, Okwei of Osomari. No one since has been bestowed this title. This is one of the highest political titles among the Osomari, and she was elected this honor, not due to her royal birth, if you'll remember, but you have to be elected to this position. Nigerians crowned only the ones that they deemed worthy to hold this title. She was to rule in a dual-sex government. This is crazy, but it's so cool. Listen, so the position of king and queen were occupied by unrelated but co-equal individuals. So they're not married. They have no relations to each other. Queen was to oversee the needs of the women, the economy, and the markets, while the king was to oversee the needs of the men, foreign relations, and most warfare. Each would confer with their own council of the same sex before making important decisions. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, don't leave the men in charge of the money. Don't do that. That's good. They got. Yeah.
Well, think about it. All the trade is run by the women.
Yeah, that's good. That's smart.
That
seems reasonable. There probably should be more things in charge. I mean, probably. Yeah. Anyway.
So here's another thing. Yeah. Omu Okwei was called to settle disputes, initiate community development programs, and oversee the market women who were key to the success of the Nigerian small business economy. She would confer with the Obi chiefs and the district officer who represented the British colonial government. I think that's such an interesting way to run a government. I genuinely had never... I mean, I probably learned that at some point in school. I don't remember having learned it, that type of government existing. Do you?
No.
I think that's so cool, though. I mean, it obviously has its problems, but I think that's a really interesting way to make sure that... there's no, self-serving royalists.
Sure.
They elect their king and queen, and they're not married. They have no relation to one another. So there's no, you do this for the women, I'll do this for the men, and then we can, collude in that sense to better our family, because that...
Yeah, I don't think... I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't think of anything.
Having heard that,
No.
yeah. No. Okwei was really good at moving between the Nigerian and colonial culture, and she used this skill to benefit her people in her new position. She not only knew the Nigerian trade system better than anyone, she fully understood the British system of currency. She was able to then accumulate capital, and her business skills allowed her to trade directly with British manufacturers. She is commonly likened to Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, and Andrew Carnegie. That's the type of savvy businesswoman that she was, that she's being compared to men like that.
She's being compared to white men like that?
You know what I mean. What? They're famed businessmen.
I know, but
anyway.
I wish there were better examples. They're probably...
Omu Okwei maintained Nigerian tradition, but she wasn't bound to them. The two marriages of her own choosing are proof positive of this. Usually in the Nigerian culture, if your family doesn't approve, it's not going to happen. Actually, I feel like that's true of most cultures.
A lot of, yeah.
Especially of this time period, of most time periods, actually. Even today, really. People
like the idea of having parents like the idea of having their blessings.
Right. But the fact that she was just no, I think I'm gonna go with these guys. Yeah. And especially her second marriage proved to be wildly successful. She is known for her honesty and fairness. Many Omu came before her, but no came after. She lived a long life and died in 1943.
Wow.
There's a marble statue that was erected in her memory, and a main street in the Onitsha was named for her. And that, my friends, is the wildly successful story of Omu Okwei.
I like that she had humble beginnings in terms of having to start off, working in business at 9.
Course. Yeah.
And it wasn't like she got a loan or anything. She was straight up selling.
Right off the bat, doing those trades, learning the trade routes.
Yeah.
That's a system that I'm not sure I even in researching and then reading over my research and writing it, there were a lot of things that I honestly that I took out because I didn't fully understand what I was writing, and I didn't want to regurgitate trade information that I didn't fully understand, because it's so complex, and I'm not sure I even still remotely understand the like
barter
trading
system.
that whole system. To trade and then trading for money.
Other
And maybe
goods.
this is just because I, am in a fully capitalist system that has nothing to do with trade.
But we have money. We
trade money for goods
there's like
instead
there's
of
a
like
set
goods
number of value, and then we
Exactly.
pay it. Where people were just like, "I'll trade you X amount of chickens for X amount of eggs,"
Exactly.
and it's like, okay, cool,
And then
this
doing-
is a thing. But I mean, she was business savvy, and she knew how to talk to people. I mean, she was able to get these women, get women the jobs, get the land, like just create this business and
rapidly too,
and
in
then,
a really interesting way.
and be influential enough to have her sons also be involved enough in the country.
Yeah.
It's like,
always thinking, always having all that kind of stuff on her mind.
that's a good role model.
Yeah, that's a great strong woman to have as a mother.
Yep.
Which is why she was elected queen, which you could say is like the mother of a country.
I'd say that's pretty high up there. Yeah. Do you want to be elected queen someday?
I
Would you
am
like
the
to?
queen.
That's true. She is.
Maybe the countess. Maybe not quite the queen. No,
Is
that's not true. I'm the queen.
Countess is. I
ruler.
don't think countess is all the way there to queen.
It's not.
Yeah. So then.
I know, that's why I took it back and said I am the queen.
Okay, well, you could be both.
I will
She's
be
all
both.
of it. She's everything.
I
y'all.
am. Do you have anything else you would like to add? Thoughts, questions, concerns?
No, the captain is signing off this week. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Women of Her Story. Don't forget to rate and review the show. It really helps us get noticed, and we can spread the podcast further. You can contact us via email at womenofherstorypodcast@gmail.com. And also follow us on Instagram at Women of Her Story Podcast. Tune in this Friday for an interview with Musa Hitomi, an incredible performer from Tokyo, Japan. Until then, be safe, stay healthy, and show the world what you're made of.
Bye.